With the Synecdoche Legends troubled, yet completed, entry finished, there would be more coming along in the first half of 2019. There was Xeroxian Chaos first, and then Wrath of Xiboglius. But we'll look at the latter first since we're going to review them chronologically. Welcome back, Obscure Titan, with yet another novel summary video. Last time I talked about the Synecdoche Legend and how it was made in late 2018. It was an intriguing project to work on, and so too the sequels to follow. While the Xeroxian Chaos did come out first, the Wrath of Xiboglius comes canonically after the first novel of the series, as we're about to see. Something worth noting is that there are acts in each episode. To make things a little more concise and easier for each chapter system, I will put all the acts into one chapter. Sadly, there is only one illustration for each episode. That being said, let's get some loot. On the planet Kilkalok in the Zegra system, it was full of swamps with trees torn up and lake as dark as black ink. In it, a big creature with a cape with a cybernetic red eye. He huffed like a lion, though as a pirate. This menace was known as Xiboglius. And as he proceeds through the nasty swamp, a serpentine creature slithers within the lake. The Jurvok is that of a snake, but has legs and pincers of a centipede. You think that it would have killed Xiboglius right off the bat, and you'd be right. But this pirate just killed it by swinging his swords at it. Pompous as ever, Xiboglius continued onwards. He slaughtered more animals until reaching his space station, the Xialdok. There, his minions have Purin prisoners chained together. Xiboglius checks in with his subordinate Kaiziko, asking how the prisoners are doing, and was greeted with an answer that they've been behaving poorly. The pirate threatened the prisoners that he'll toss them in the Daedric pit, in which slaves are pitted to fight each other. As Xiboglius and his crew kept threatening the prisoners to work, one named Crimzoid couldn't take it anymore. He sprinted off towards the entrance of the Xialdok ship, being chased by Xiboglius' minions. The boy ran through the halls of the ship and looked for a vehicle to escape to. After facing multiple obstacles, Crimzoid eventually finds a ship and dodges the fallen Zenectocron troops following Xiboglius and flees out of the Xialdok ship. The scene ends with Crimzoid zooming into deep space from the Zegra system to the Prologue system. On the planet Purosk in the Prologue system, it's been some time since Copenazur's defeat. Inside a central building, one of Sidored's crew inform him that a ship is coming to the planet and brings in Jabe, Syra, and Zaldon. Reintroducing themselves to Revkis, who was previously cyberized, go to a meeting to meet with Sidored regarding an unexpected visitor coming. Jabe and Zaldon argued who'd be driving, but at the end of the day, the latter ends up winning the argument. Meanwhile, at the Synecdoche Palace, Saduklon appears before Zenectos, the god of time himself. He informs his disciple and her robot companion Zydrax that Xiboglius is stealing all of the Zenectoverse's minerals, and eventually, that of Injectors. While they talked, Saduklon had a feeling of lamentation over one whom she looked up to long ago, referring to Syra, being her older sister. Zenectos questions her about the emotion and brushes it off with a no. He continued to pester her over the fact, and it ends with him agreeing that Saduklon needs to stop Xiboglius before he awakens Injector on accident. Or vice versa. Saduklon proceeds to her spaceship outside of her father's throne room and the Synecdoche Palace. At the Kuroda Forest, Jabe, Syra, and Saduklon make their way through the woods and discover a crash site. It was a ship similar to what Crimzoid rode on previously and was feeling nauseous over the impact, despite wearing an oxygen mask. They carry him out of the ship and were told that Xiboglius' wrath is coming. The heroes return to the new Krylanok city, with Crimzoid, who is still panicking over his experience, escaping Xiboglius' anger and his minions on the planet Kilkalok. Once inside the central complex, they enter Sidored's office, where he, Revkis, Radalakro, and Zaldarako are inside. It's suggested that if Xiboglius is a Rashka, they need to bring Riorak in a call, implying he knows something about it. Riorak answers the call through a hologram and talks to his allies. Crimzoid introduces himself and mentions the name of Xiboglius to him. The mention immediately had him snap, naming him as the heartless murderer who betrayed him and his planet. This causes the entire crew concern. However, they plan to go on Kilkalok to confront Xiboglius and stop him. One thing to note before we proceed is that like Zenexity is another source of Zenectity created by Zenectos. Unlike the latter, the former doesn't create a plague of sorts. Rather, it's used to purify all hideousness and death Objector's essence brings. Meanwhile, on the planet Kilkalok, the Xialdek ship flies above the swamps. Inside it, Xiboglius and Xiboglius discuss what transpired previously, with Crimzoid escaping them. Xiboglius grows impatient with Xiboglius' critiques regarding Crimzoid's escape and tasks his subordinate to capture anyone that gets in their way, including Copenazur soldiers, in which at that point Copenazur was already defeated prior to his appearance, and didn't know those who were cyberized got freed. Back on Purosk, Jabe, Rodalicro, Zauderico, and Zaldine get themselves prepared to transport to Kilkalok with a device similar to Bogokoro's. Their task is to find Xiboglius and prevent an impending doom that could have been Objector's release should he take light Zenexity from the asteroid. As the crew stepped into the portal to Kilkalok, they see no one but the muddled swamp of the planet itself. That is until they come across Xiboglius. He declares himself to be a former Zenecticron who now joins forces with Xiboglius. The crew fought a battle against a subordinate of the pirate master. The fight worsened as slithering vipers prowled about and kept going after them. Once the commotion was all said and done, Xialdon and Zauderico disappeared. It's speculated by Rodalicro that Xiboglius captured them, and heading towards a Xialdek ship. Meanwhile, Zaduklon and Zydrax flew above the swamps of Kilkalok to find Xiboglius. She comments about humanity's religions and write them off as bigoted. Zydrax asks if his Zenectos was anything of the sorts. She replied yes, but admits he's a good planner. Upon arrival, the duo quietly land on the top of the Xialdek ship to infiltrate it. It seemed as though a massive party is about to begin. But first... Back on Purosk, Crimzoid lives within Jabin Cyrus Tower in the new Cryolonok City. He's been treated with new clothes and time to relax. Shortly after, a young woman named Tensia brings equipment into the room and both start a conversation. Crimzoid wished he had joined Jabe to fight Xiboglius, only to be rebutted by Tensia. He deflected her disagreement and told her that he escaped Xiboglius' crew and ship on his own. She then suggested he should put on something like armor, for instance. It's revealed that Sidhorid tells Crimzoid to see Yurak. He and his allies intend to ask him questions about the situation he's been through in Kilkalok. Meanwhile in the Zenectopolis, Zenectos ponders on current events taking place on the planet Kilkalok, sensing that trouble is brewing. He marches into a dark room somewhere in his palace to find a rebuilt Maldrak, who was previously transported to Kilkalok in the Zenectic legend. One might assume Zenectos' military found the creature and brought him in, though no specific reason was said by him. The Primordial of Time tasks him to a mission on Kilkalok, where he must bring devastation to both Xiboglius and Cyrus' allies. After he sends him to Kilkalok, Zenectos attends to Copenazur, who was previously damaged in the Zenectic legend, and is being held inside a prison chamber. They both have a talk about their endeavors, ranging from Zenectos' hypocrisy to Copenazur's downfall prior to his capture. Zenectos assures him that he will make Copenazur a stronger fighter than he was before, for his plans are coming into fruition. Meanwhile on Kilkalok, inside the bowels of the Xialdek station, Jabe and Rodalicor make their way underneath the surface of its Dydred pit, where prisoners are forced to fight. They quietly pass through while listening to whipping and slashing, as if swords and whips were used in a battle. The taskmasters above were demanding the prisoners so greatly they proceeded to violently beat them to death. There were two fallen Zenecticron soldiers patrolling under the Dydred pit, and both Jabe and Rodalicor hid. As they did so, a Nikki shadowy figure slithered and appeared in front of the guards. Shadowclon fades from and hopped behind them to tranquilize them. Once she succeeds in this part, Shadowclon and Zydrax proceed through the sewage chambers. The two heroes follow the Shadowbringer quietly and arrive to a wide hallway. Rodalicro and Jabe follow Shadowclon quietly to avoid confrontation. However, rumbling noises commenced, indicating that Maldrak made its way to Kilkalok and starts attacking the Xialdek space station. The Shadowbringer turns around and begins making hostile remarks to them. Despite having the same goal as Jabe and Rodalicro do, Shadowclon does not consider them as allies and prepares to fight them. Zydrax was summoned and transforms into a piece of armor attached to her backplate like giant hordes from behind. They fought fiercely as Maldrak kept shaking the station with all of his might, threatening to destroy it with no mercy. Jabe was determined to find Xiboglius and will not leave until she takes on the Pirate Master himself, even if she has to battle Shadowclon first. Outside, Muldrak is attacking the Zealdek's ship and scratches it. This catches Xiboglius and Xiboglius' attention, and the latter suggests that they should evacuate. The former demands they send their soldiers to fight off the Tyrannox, and begrudgingly agrees. So Darkro and Zaldon join the fray after having to escape somehow, and aid both Jabe and Radalagro to fend off against Zaduklon and Zydrax. I know. 3 ants. Who knew? The fight intensified even further as Zaduklon continued the fight. The more Muldrak kept attacking, the harder the battle. The ship began to tilt and roll as he did so. Back on Purosk, Crimzoid asked if he could get some armor on. Reluctant at first, Sidoret is considering sending in more troops to assist Jabe and her friends, but given his connection to the Xiboglius situation, he considers his request. Syra hops in and asks what was happening. Sidoret suggests that Crimzoid watches her back and are tasked to assist Jabe's team to ensure Xiboglius' fall is achieved. Despite his physical status, Crimzoid is the only option Sidoret could think of, and they go to Kilkalog. Entering the fight on the planet Kilkalog, the heroes of Purosk and Radalagro's warriors fought both Zaduklon and Xiboglius' crew. It only got crazier when the Primordials, namely Lytris, Rexon, Pyroxa, and Zadon, joined the fight. They all fought Muldrak and brought him down eventually. The battle's destruction escalated as Muldrak fell and Xiboglius' forces were crushed. It seemed as if Jabe's forces were fortunate enough to win. However, one thing remained. Xiboglius. The Pirate Master teleports himself to Imjector's prison via Kaizegel's relic that grants him the capability. Jabe and Radalagro were preparing to chase after him, but not without oxygen masks to survive the asteroid's lack of atmosphere. Once prepared, Jabe, Sarah, and Radalagro proceed to the portal and enter Imjector's asteroid prison. Looking for an opening, the crew search for Xiboglius. Soon, they find him, with an opening of the asteroid, and proceed to fight him. Going inside the Dark Planet, they all took on him. The heroes used as much as they could to defeat Xiboglius despite his intense strength and brutality. However, Jabe and her crew form a strategy to clash the Pirate Master into pillars, which would crush his bones with just enough force. They go along with the plan. However, slimy organisms linger on and about to swarm at Jabe's team. They collectively suggested leaving the planet now that Xiboglius is defeated and flee to Purosk. With all that said and done, Jabe and her friends make it out alive. Both their allies in the new Cryolonox City and the Primordials congratulate their success in defeating Xiboglius, and hope that it would be the last of him. After a devastating battle, Xiboglius was left inside the giant asteroid where Imjector's gooey essence lingers around. The being himself hovered around Xiboglius and was told that a certain Purin infiltrated through the surface of his planet, and he's facing uncertainty. He ensures that everyone in the Zenectoverse will suffer his hunger, and destroy the one who imprisoned him in the first place, Zenectos. Imjector offers to help Xiboglius if he becomes his disciple, and as you were expecting, things could have gone horribly sideways, but knowing he can't squeeze his way out of the prison, he accepts the bargain. The monster slithers his essence all over Xiboglius' body and begins to transform it into a grotesque creature, each part of his being turned more horrifying than the last. Xiboglius wasn't like himself anymore. He was Imjector in mortal form. With a mortal's husk set in place, Imjector flees his prison and searches throughout the Zenectoverse for an army. As the novel nears to an end, Jabe and Syra enjoy a well-deserved rest. The Zenectic plague was gone, and the majority of the Zenectoverse was returning to its republic state, where socialist tyrannies are being driven out. Inside their tower, Syra hoped that Imjector doesn't escape, because what if Xiboglius infiltrated through the asteroid for minerals? Jabe answered that so long as she lives, she's ready to take on a challenge. They both headed out to meet up with Crimzoid for an errand. Despite not being able to find her parents yet, Jabe is hopeful that things will turn for the better after Zenectos is defeated. With this loot and stealing treasure of Xiboglius being foiled, it seemed as though Jabe's taking a nice vacation, at least until the Xeroxian chaos. Next time we take a look at Adraken's adventures at the dark planet Xeroxia, where scantily clad pixies and deformed dogs roam. Thanks for watching, feel free to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Over and out.